Let's pause, not for the first time, to consider what remains as Better Call Saul leads us into the final 6 episodes of its final season and continues on a collision course with the events of Breaking Bad. What will be left of you after you pass away or decamp to Omaha under a new identity, as one does? A trove of recently ironed suits in the closet. Glass fragments amid the dust of the desert. A suspended memorial slide rule made of lucite. Lastly, this under a bright hazy California sky, a shoe washed up on the shore and began to softly float around in the surf. The shoe's companion is further back, sitting in the sand. Further still, Howard Hamlin's Jaguar is parked carelessly with one door still ajar. His wedding ring and wallet are on the dashboard. These items are set pieces rather than mere antiques, much like Saul Goodman's abandoned house with its solid gold toilet and wardrobe full of dazzling suits. The tale of Howard Hamlin's identity, life, and passing is revealed by his shoes, automobile, and the ring on the dashboard. But this narrative is not true, and we should remember that. Anyway, remember that as we go on to the more important matter of Lalo Salamanca standing in Jimmy's living room holding a revolver. The bullet hole in Howard's head is still spewing blood, and Lalo is urging Jimmy and Kim to concentrate. They do, but it's important to note that Jimmy rises to the occasion while Kim does not. A shaking, hyperventilating creature in a baby pink sweatshirt and no shoes has replaced the woman who previously stood face to face with Lalo and sternly commanded him, "You need to get your house in order." Lalo explains what will happen next. Lalo and Kim will remain at the condo. Jimmy will board Lalo's vehicle, travel to Gus Fring's residence, and then shoot whoever answers the door with the gun in the glove box. Within an hour, he will photograph the body and head back home. If he doesn't accomplish this, Kim will be joining Howard on the floor in the hereafter, which isn't explicitly stated but is clearly inferred. Clearly, this strategy is absurd. There's no way Gus Fring would answer his own door to a would-be assassin in the middle of the night, as we all know, and Lalo definitely does too. However, Jimmy is unaware of this. All he is aware of is his desire to evict Kim from the condo. He tells Lalo to send her, and Lalo agrees. Guys, here's a pro tip. If Lalo Salamanca agrees to a change in the original plan, it was never actually the original plan. In fact, as soon as Kim leaves, Lalo zip-ties Jimmy to a chair, puts a gag in his mouth, turns up the TV to block out his muffled screams, and then he hurries out. Kim would have been wise enough to understand that she was merely a pawn in Lalo's larger strategy if she hadn't been so traumatized by witnessing Howard's death in front of her and terrified that Jimmy was going to suffer the same fate. Her actual job is not to assassinate Gus Fring. In order for Gus to recognize that he has left the laundry and its covert underground meth lab undefended, he needs to be caught trying. And indeed, this is what actually transpires, but not until Kim severely reprimands Mike Armentrout for his, admittedly unusual, lack in attentiveness. "You said you were watching us," she snarls. "Where were you?" Mike doesn't respond, possibly due of a lack of time, but also possibly because the only possible response is that Mike messed up. He miscalculated Lalo. And every fatality tonight, starting with Howard, but by no means stopping there, could have been prevented. When Mike takes off Jimmy's gag and inquires as to where and when Lalo departed, it is already too late for Gus had already fallen into the trap and led his security team to the laundry, where Lalo kills everyone but Gus. He most certainly plans to kill Gus as well, but not before he completes his twisted little documentary film for Don Eladio that demonstrates the extent of Gus's betrayal. They descend into the abyss, which is exactly where Gus, who did not undervalue Lalo Salamanca, had predicted they would end up. This sequence is considerably more suspenseful than it has to be, especially in light of the gun that Gus planted at the construction site in a previous episode and the fact that only one of these men will be clearly alive in the future of Breaking Bad. Can Gus truly use the tried and true villainous monologue technique to give Lalo a false sense of victory? Is it really possible for him to reach out and discharge that rifle from a few yards away? Can Lalo Salamanca, this series' most terrifying monster, really die down here in the dark, a victim as much of his own hubris as of Gus's relentless quest for revenge? At the conclusion of his speech, which had to be cathartic despite the fact that he knows Don Eladio won't ever hear it, Gus kicks the lights out in a flurry of sparks, lunges for the gun, and opens fire. Lalo is on the ground choking on his own blood when the lights are turned back on. He is also laughing. Which is strange. He may be enjoying violence, even when he is the victim, rather than the perpetrator. In any case, he is still laughing and choking when he passes away. Perhaps it is shock at being defeated by the Chicken Man. The most terrifying and, it must be stated, most attractive enemy from Better Call Saul comes to an end now. Except that his legacy of dread will endure for everyone left behind. The worst scars caused by Lalo are the ones you can't see, even if Gus didn't quite escape unscathed, because one of the bullets used in that final fight hit him in the side meat. Horrible memories, the nightmares with screaming. Mike catches a glimpse of the scene where Howard Hamlin's body is seen being thrown into a refrigerator as he tells Jimmy and Kim to act normally for the next 4 days while he staged Howard's suicide. "I need to impress upon you, none of this ever happened," Mike says. "I get the impression that this is the end," as Kim replies, "It never happened," but her voice is hollow. Perhaps not of the marriage, but undoubtedly of their apartment, where every time they open the refrigerator, they will be reminded of Howard's body hitting the floor. And as for Howard, he'll eventually be interred in the same unmarked grave as his killer, beneath what will one day be the concrete floor of the laundry meth lab. Does this scene impact differently now that we know what's under Jesse's feet? Except for Mike, who interrupts the burial to take off Howard's wallet, wedding ring, and shoes, there is no funeral, no final farewells, and no mourners. And even though Mike merely utters the word easy as Howard is laid to rest, the expression on his face is nearly as moving as a eulogy.